Welcome to the deep dive, where we zero in on what matters. And for, well, quite a few of you A-level English students with exams coming up, what really matters right now is getting to grips with F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby.
Exactly. Yeah, we basically taken the Great Gatsby exam revision guide and tried to pull out the absolute core stuff.
The essentials.
Right, the essentials. Think of it as a toolkit to help you feel confident tackling those exam questions.
Okay, let's unpack this then. First stop, Gatsby himself and his feelings for Daisy. I mean, is it actually love? Or, something else?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Is he really in love with Daisy now, or is it more like he's obsessed with a memory, an idea of her he's built up?
And an idealized version, yeah.
Yeah.
The guide mentions that, like nostalgia making it seem better than it was.
Exactly. He's sort of polished this image from the past, hasn't he? The guide points out, like you said, the real Daisy.
Yeah.
Well, she tumbled short of his dreams. Makes words.
Yeah, that line really hits home.
It does. And think about the green light symbol. Such a powerful image.
Definitely.
At first it's everything, right? Hope, the future, Daisy.
Yeah.
But the guide highlights how, as he gets closer, it just loses its magic.
It becomes just a light on a dock.
Precisely. Which makes you wonder, doesn't it? Can chasing an ideal ever really satisfy you when reality fails? And, for your exams, thinking about how Fitzgerald uses symbols like that to show complex feelings, that's key.
Okay, moving on. The setting. 1920s New York. It's glamorous, sure, but it's more than just a backdrop, isn't it? The guide really stresses its importance for understanding America at that time.
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial. The guide draws a really neat contrast between the traditional American dream,
Yeah.
Work hard, get ahead, and the version we see in Gatsby's world.
Which is pretty twisted.
Yeah, totally work. His money comes from crime, not merit, as the guide puts it. So he's got the wealth, the status, but it's built on something corrupt.
And he still doesn't get what he truly wants.
Exactly. It's this huge paradox.
Yeah.
It really begs the question, what does success actually mean in this world?
And then there's the whole jazz age vibe.
Yeah, right. The guide frames it as this time of wild parties, business blooming, but also morals getting pretty loose.
A lot of sparkle on the surface.
Yeah, dazzling surface. But the guide talks about this deep emptiness underneath. You see characters like Tom and Daisy with their old money just kind of drifting, aimless.
Whereas Gatsby, even though his dream is flawed, he at least has one. He has purpose.
Even if it's maybe misdirected purpose, yeah. And the guide brings out that amazing Nick quote about Gatsby having this extraordinary gift for hope.
And an incorruptible dream, even in that corrupt world.
That really captures the heart of it, I think.
Yeah.
And again, for your exams, think about how Fitzgerald uses this specific time and place, the Roaring Twenties, to critique those bigger American ideas.
Okay, let's talk about Nick Carraway. He starts off saying he won't judge anyone.
Yeah, reserves judgments, he says. But that doesn't laugh, does it?
Not really. You see him change quite a bit.
Definitely. The guide tracks his growing disillusionment, especially with the East Coast wealthy folk. He starts seeing them as careless, selfish, and morally bankrupt.
That carelessness really stands out. The Buchanans just wreck things and retreat back into their money.
And that journey is central to why he's the narrator, right?
Right.
It leads him to want to go back home, back to the Midwest, where he feels things are more, honest.
And it's strange, isn't it? Because Gatsby is technically a criminal.
Right.
But Nick ends up respecting him more than the supposedly respectable rich people. That quote the guide highlights, "You're worth the whole damn bunch put together."
It's powerful stuff. It forces you to think about what morality really is in this book.
Yeah.
Is it following the law, or is it something deeper?
Like loyalty or belief in something.
Maybe. But the guide also doesn't let Nick completely off the hook. It mentions his own naivety sometimes and, some moral inconsistencies.
Like how he seems okay with Jordan Baker being dishonest.
Exactly. So his judgment isn't always simple or straightforward either. It's complex.
Which kind of leads us nicely into the whole theme of appearance versus reality. Seems like nothing in this book is quite what it seems on the surface.
Oh, it's everywhere. The guide points out so many examples. Gatsby himself is the biggest one, obviously.
Yeah, the whole Oxford man, the inherited wealth, all fake.
All a construct. A carefully built illusion to hide James Gatz and win Daisy. And Daisy, too, she looks like the perfect, charming, beautiful.
Walden girl.
Yeah, but underneath, the guy suggests it's mostly shallowness and self-interest.
And don't forget the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleberg, those giant eyes on the billboard.
Right, looking down like God, but they're just an advert. Overlooking this total moral wasteland, the Valley of Ashes, the guide really hits that sense of misdirection. Everything looks grand, but it's hollow.
Like the parties.
Exactly like the party. They seem so glamorous, right?
Right.
But the guide points out they're filled with people who don't even know Gatsby, just gossiping and getting drunk. It's all surface, no substance. Another great point for essays that contrast between the glittering facade and the emptiness behind it.
The guide also does a good job breaking down the social class stuff. It's not just rich and poor.
No, it's very layered.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald is really focused on hierarchy. You've got the old money, Daisy and Tom. They were born into it. It's effortless for them. That sort of ingrained elegance and entitlement.
Then Gatsby represents the new money.
Yeah, nouveau riche. He's got maybe even more cash, but he doesn't have the breeding, the background. He can't just buy his way into their club.
They sort of look down on him, don't they? Tom especially.
Absolutely. And then you have the no money class, like George and Myrtle Wilson stuck in the Valley of Ashes. Their lives are just completely ignored by the wealthy characters. Tragic, really. Shows the massive inequality.
And Gatsby keeps trying to fit in with the old money crowd.
He does. The guide mentions the pink suit, the old sport phrase he keeps using, the huge mansion.
Trying too hard.
Kind of, yeah. Because, as the guide notes, he just doesn't get their unspoken rules, their codes. He wasn't born into it, so he always seems a bit off, a bit flashy to them.
Yeah.
He can't fake that inherited ease.
Right, okay. Now, for everyone revising, the guide has these neat little character summaries. Super useful for exams. Let's quickly run through them. J. Gatsby.
Okay, Gatsby. The guide sums him up as dreamer, romantic, liar, criminal. Quite a mix.
Definitely. And his main motivation.
Reinventing himself.
Yeah.
Wiping out James Gatz, becoming J. Gatsby. All to win Daisy back. That's his one single goal.
And the things he does for it. The parties, buying that specific house across the bay.
Taking the blame for Myrtle's death, it's all driven by that dream.
His greatness? Is he great?
Well, the guide suggests his greatness lies in the sheer power of that dream, his unwavering belief in something ultimately impossible, even if the dream itself is kind of flawed or based on the past.
Okay. Nick Carraway, our narrator.
Right, Nick. He's our way into the story, the moral lens, as the guide puts it. Comes from the Midwest, gets thrown into this crazy rich East Coast world.
Claims he's honest.
Yeah, prides himself on honesty. But the guide rightly points out he can be a bit naive and maybe overlooks things sometimes. His morals aren't always black and white.
And he gets pretty disillusioned by the end.
Totally. Everything that happens, especially Gatsby's death, just makes him see the emptiness of the East. So he goes back home.
Which says a lot. Okay, Daisy Buchanan, the object of the dream.
Daisy. The guide calls her beautiful, charming, but also kind of hollow. Her appeal is massive, but it's suggested she's drawn more to Gatsby's wealth than to Gatsby himself.
Not genuine love, then.
Seems unlikely. And when she actually has to choose between Gatsby and Tom, she can't. She just retreats back into her money, her comfortable life.
Doesn't take responsibility, especially for Myrtle's death.
Not at all. The guide really emphasizes how she avoids facing the consequences of anything she does.
And finally, Tom Buchanan, Daisy's husband.
Tom. The guy doesn't hold back. Arrogant, racist, sexist, aggressive. He's basically the worst of the old money entitlement.
Thinks he's superior to everyone. Cheats on Daisy constantly. Abusive.
Yeah, and he gets away with it all. Because of his money, his status, the guide uses him to show how that kind of privilege just protects people, lets them be careless and destructive without consequences.
Okay, so for that last minute cramming before the exam, the guide gives a super quick recap.
Yeah, boils it down nicely. Key themes: failure of the American dream, illusion versus reality, love turning into obsession, and moral decay.
Key symbol.
Easy one. The green light, Gatsby's dream, always just out of reach.
Narrator.
Nick, our eyes and ears, but remember, he's flawed. He's in the story too.
Gatsby.
Dreamer, destroyed by a corrupt world. Tragic figure.
Daisy.
Symbol of wealth and beauty, but ultimately shallow.
Tom.
Represents the careless, powerful elite. Power without purpose. Yeah, it's a really solid snapshot for revision.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into The Great Gatsby, hopefully really helpful for your A-level prep, it's obvious this book is so much more than just, fancy parties and a doomed romance.
Absolutely. What really sticks with you and what's crucial for you to grasp is how it explores what happens when big dreams crash into a messy, flawed reality.
The consequences.
Yeah, the often devastating consequences. It's a powerful look at chasing illusions, even if you start with hope.
Well, thanks for joining us for this focused look at Gatsby. Keep digging into it and remember those final haunting words.
So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.